Hello, welcome to this week's book reads. Excuse the Elvira themed makeup, but I thought I'd film it half the books that I read this week, and it happened to fall upon Halloween, so I thought let's just go with it. So I'm going to talk about the books that I've read so far. I'll put the number up here of the total books that I've read this week, but so far these are the books that I've read, and I'll start with Home Food by Olia Hercules. I'll show you some of the beautiful, and I go to a text page, the beautiful recipes that are in this book. I'd say it's heavily influenced by, oh geez, it's so hard to, it's heavily influenced by, I'd say, European food. There are like some other types of foods in here, but a lot of it is European, perhaps even I'd say Eastern European and Mediterranean and perhaps Middle Eastern. So it's really well done. It's beautiful. I love the stories that she writes before the recipes. I like sort of a bit of history, a bit of background. I've already cooked a recipe from here. It was a lamb marinade that used kefir, and it was delicious. So I'm looking forward to cooking some more from this recipe book. We have The Hemlock Cure. So this is set in 1665. It's about a village of Iam. It's during the plague. They decided to sort of quarantine themselves from the rest of the world. It's about a girl named May who's lost her mother and her sister, and who's sort of, I'd say, terrorized by her apothecary father, who's very religious and considers a lot of things to be witchcraft that women do. Like there's a midwife, a town midwife, and he considers her to be sort of a witch. How did I feel about this? It was okay. I didn't love it at all. I did find myself skimming through. It's sort of told, the narrator is Leah, who's May's deceased older sister. And yeah, it's okay. I just felt it was a little lackluster. And I sort of could tell the way it was going to end, so it was a little predictable, but it was okay. Then I read Reasons to Go Outside by Esme King. So this is about Pearl Winter. She has severe agoraphobia. She hasn't left her house in 43 years because of an incident that occurred when she was a teenager. She literally has not set foot outside of her house. Her late stepfather and mother took care of her entire life, but when they pass away, she realizes that she's going to need help. So she puts up a help wanted sign for a gardener, and freshly 18, about to go to university, not sure what he wants to do with his life, boy named Connor comes along who's dealing with his own issues. His mother passed away and his father has a new partner, and he's feeling like he doesn't belong there anymore, that he's pushed out. So together they form a friendship. There's also tales sort of about lost love and overcoming her fears. And it's sort of a slice of life kind of book, and how friendship and love and trauma affect human beings, and about connection. It was sweet, it was cute. It's nothing amazing though. I didn't feel particularly overcome with emotion. I didn't feel it particularly deep. So it was just a very light, easy read. Hello. So I'm back. I have been sick with the flu for about 12 days, and I'm just starting to get my voice back. But I thought I'd better review everything now before I read too many more books and I don't remember anything. So I have read around 18 books while sick, and it's been fun. It's pretty much been the only thing that I was able to do for like the first whole week. So I have read a lot of books, some of them fantastic, some not so great. I'll start with, thanks Sylvie, I'll start with some of the audiobooks that I listened to. No, we don't eat the paper, babes. I'll start off with The Why, Healthy Habits for an Epic Life by Isabel Cornish. Transform your life by tuning into the wisdom of your mind, body and soul in this hands-on guide to living well, from wellness warrior and actor Isabel Cornish. So I DNF'd this. To me, this was very colloquial. It felt very Instagram-y. I'm not saying that you have to be an expert to write self-help books, but this pretty much really felt like just talking to a friend and saying, so what are your, life hacks? What are your wellness tips? And then being like, well, I like to do this. So it was just a little too pedestrian for me, and I wasn't vibing with it. So I DNF'd it. I need something with a little bit more depth, with someone who has a little more qualifications, I guess, in the field that they're discussing. Then we've got The Library of Lost and Found by Patrick Phaedra. I DNF'd this at 30%. Librarian Martha Storm has always found it easier to connect with books than people, though not through lack of trying. She keeps careful lists of how to help others in her superhero-themed notebook, and yet sometimes it feels like she's invisible. All of that changes when a book of fairy tales arrives on her doorstep, and she's found a dedication written to her by her best friend, her grandmother Zelda, who died years earlier. This had a lot of premise. I thought the synopsis was great, but I just did not like the main character at all. I don't want to say that she felt a bit pathetic, but she kind of did. And the story was taking too long to get into it. It was a little dull and boring for me. And I need a protagonist who's probably not so mousy, for lack of a better word. The Seven Skins of Esther Wilding by Holly Ringland. I DNF'd this as well. This was about sisters, and one of them passed away. She committed suicide, and sort of looking through the eyes of her surviving sister, who has a lot of grief and is heading back home to commemorate a year since her sister went missing because they didn't find the body. It was just so slow, so very slow. And it's a massive book. And like I said, it just was too long to get into it. I wasn't invested. I just wasn't feeling it. I know some people like these sorts of stories, but for me, it's not entertaining. Next, I have Love Your Life by Sophie Kinsella. And I DNF'd this also. Call Ava romantic, but she thinks love should be found in the real world, not on apps that filter men by height or astrological sign. She believes in feelings, not algorithms. So after recent breakup and dating app debacle, she puts love on hold and escapes to a remote writer's retreat in coastal Italy. So she wants to write a book, and she goes to this retreat, and there's all these people there, and there's a dude there, and they're not allowed to exchange their real names or any information about themselves. But her and this man fall in love, and then when they go back to England and they exchange their real life details, they realize they're not compatible, and can they make it in the real world? I didn't care. So it was okay, but there was just so much silliness to it that I just couldn't get into it. Literally the second that they arrive back in the UK and they find out who each other are, it sort of becomes instantly awkward. Oh, who are you? I don't know. Who is this person? It's well, no shit, you don't know who this person is because you didn't exchange anything personal. All you did was have some experiences together, but there is no getting to know each other. And then the second that they start to get to know each other, they instantly we're not as in love as we thought we were. So I was no, I'm out. I don't care about reading this. Next, I listened to I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. A heartbreaking, hilarious memoir by Jeanette McCurdy about her struggles as a former child actor, including eating disorders, addiction, and a complicated relationship with her overbearing mother, and how she took control of her life. So this has obviously done the rounds. And like I said, I'm not really a memoirs autobiography person, but I thought, well, my cat's all over me. I've been gone all day on my kids' excursion, so she's getting all her pats in. I rated this 4 stars. I decided to listen to this because I seriously find memoirs I would like to hear it in the author's voice, because I feel it has a lot more emotional depth to it when it's like that. So it was well written. It's hard to rate memoirs. Let me rate your life. No. So there's no I'm not rating characters or anything like that. It's just about how the writing is, I enjoyed the writing. The pace was great. The way that they told their story was great. Whilst I'd say the first half of the book focuses more on her relationship with her mother, which does have abusive elements to it, it was also very, very heavy on eating disorders. So if you've had anorexia or bulimia, this could be triggering for you. Even I haven't had those conditions. I found it wow, that's a lot. That is full on. Yeah, it was an enjoyable read, and I enjoyed my time reading it. So I do give it 4 stars. Like I said, I find it very hard to critique memoirs, but I read it till the end. So yeah, I guess some memoirs I do like to read. Okay, so now I'm going to go into some of the physical books first, and I've got Beautiful Houses by the Water, Living at the Water's Edge, and these are houses from all over the world. I really like architecture, and a house that has either views of the water or by the water is like the dream. She's put them all on the floor, Sylvie. So this had a pretty good selection. I would say these are all very modern and contemporary, most of them anyway. But I had a fun time browsing through it. So that was Beautiful Houses by the Water. I'm not going to rate a sort of coffee book. Then I read How to Be Well, A Handbook for Women by Dr. Karen Coates and Sharon Kolkar. So this is, I'll just open it up for you. This is just basically a life guide. So there's nothing sort of new and groundbreaking in here, but if you've never read anything about sort of how to live a healthy lifestyle, so it has health, mental health, so mental, physical, spiritual health, well-being tips in here. It's sort of just like an all-round how to live a good life in general. Here's some tips, here's some helpful things, and it focuses more on women's like health as well too, so hormones and menstruation, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was well written. It's basic, but if you're starting out, then it's got everything you need. Next up, I read Stealing Infinity by Alison Noel or Noel. I got this book in a book box. This is basically about a girl, I think she's 17, maybe 18, so young, who suddenly finds herself in this special school for kids, and it's basically about time travel, and she meets a boy and all that sort of thing. The premise was interesting, but it was just really poorly executed. There was not really much about the whole time travel thing and sort of the mystery of her father's disappearance and everything else, and more about teenage angst and relationship drama and dynamics. So I think I gave this 2.75. I did not enjoy it. I don't know why I pushed through. I think it's because I have a physical copy that I basically bought because it was part of a book box that I made myself finish it. But yeah, this is just not for me. It's just too young. Then we've got 10 Pathways, a Framework for Redefining Happiness by Fleur Chambers. So this is a guide about 10 pathway frameworks for redefining happiness in a way which allow you to safely meet your pain, access its wisdom, and embrace all of life. So this is sort of about people like with chronic pain. I'll show you, it's got some beautiful illustrations in it. I enjoyed reading this. It was very easy to read. It flowed well. There's another picture. I love the illustrations in there. There's some full-page illustrations too. And sort of like navigating everyday life. Yeah, and sort of how to live with chronic pain. So how to still enjoy your life even though you might be suffering. I really enjoyed it. It was, like I said, it was just easy to read and delightful. Here we have Abundance by Deepak Chopra, How to Live a Life of Abundance by the Master of Meditation. Many of us live with a mindset of lack and limitation, focusing on things we don't have. So I thought this would be more about financial abundance, I'm not gonna lie. It was a little bit about that, but in general it was, I don't know, it was a bit dry. It wasn't about anything that I hadn't already read before, especially I've read a lot of Deepak's stuff. So this wasn't really anything new and I didn't really get much from it. So for me personally, it is just a 3 stars. It's not bad, but it's just dull because I don't have anything to take away from this one in particular. And I think some of his other books are much better. Next we have Milk Teeth by Jessica Andrews, a lush and intimate love story about a girl growing up in the northeast of England amid scarcity, precarity, and a toxic culture of bodily shame, certain that she must make herself even smaller to be loved. So this, I don't normally like sort of slice of life, just one person going about their day, you know, books, but the writing in this really is lush. It's poetic. It's purple prose, but a purple prose that I really enjoy. It's very rich. And for that reason, I enjoyed being this person's head, even though the protagonist is quite problematic, has a lot of issues. This once again deals very heavily with eating disorders and the whole thing about wanting to take up less space in the world. So it is heavy, but it passed the time for me. I read it all in one sitting. So, and it's not like me to read a book that doesn't have like a lot of plot, so to speak, but I just enjoyed just going through her life and what she was experiencing. Although I did find it frustrating, the miscommunication sort of thing. I really hate miscommunication trope in any type of novel. It's like when her partner is constantly asking her, you know, are you okay? Like, what are you thinking about? What's going on? And all he gets is like, nothing, I'm fine. And it's not. And in her head, it's like, it's not fine. She's thinking all these things. Her partner's picking up on it, obviously. And then she's just denying them the reality. And I can't stand that. I'm just like, this is so unnecessary. Just say what you're angry about, what you're frustrated by, so that they can understand and you can come to like an understanding of each other, and this doesn't have to be an issue anymore. So that is very frustrating, but luckily there was enough else going on. Like I said, mostly it's the writing for me with this one that I just pushed through that sort of stuff. Here we have The Gift of High Sensitivity, Embracing the Gift of High Sensitivity by Mark Wells. This is about HSPs, or highly sensitive persons, which I identify as that. And whilst there was some parts of this that I did enjoy, I didn't like the writing. So the writing to me was once again very colloquial. It was very heavily coloured by the author's sort of personal experiences. It's a white male author, so there's that sort of viewpoint in it, and they did acknowledge that in a way, but because of that, I didn't really resonate with a lot of this. And also there was just a absolute liberal use of exclamation marks all the time. That really irked me. It just felt so, it's not really cringy, but just amateurish. I'm surprised the editor wasn't like, hey man, let's ease up on the exclamation marks, my friend. So it was just okay. I think I rated it like 3 stars. Next up, we have Tarot, Life Planner, Change Your Destiny and Enrich Your Life by Lady Lorelei. I'll show you some of the inside of this. So look, I went into this thinking something different. I thought it would be about using the tarot to life plan. Look, in a way, it sort of is, but it isn't. So this wasn't what I was expecting. Because of that, I'm not going to rate it. My favorite part of this, like the thing I took the most out of this, was the career choices. So there was this spread about career choices, and I've gone through all the tarot cards and listed what they think they correlate to in regards to a career. And I thought that was really interesting, and that was a bit of fun. So that was a really fun exercise. But yeah, because it's not what I thought it was going to be, I'm not going to rate it, and I didn't really get much from it. Then we have Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. This was sort of based on the premise of keep your future self in mind. So the way that you live your life now, if you can keep your future self in mind, you will do better by them. That's something that I've always tried to do, and especially when it comes to appreciating the people in my life. I remember when I saw the movie Click with Adam Sandler. It's a very popular film, but the premise is he gets this magical remote and he's able to pause or fast forward or rewind moments in his life. He ends up skipping through a lot of things. Every time he gets sick, he skips it. Every time he has to go to his children's plays, whatever, he skips it. So the remote ends up just going on autopilot, and he ends up fast forwarding through his entire life. And he finds himself at the end of it, no longer married, doesn't have a relationship with his children. And then he finds out his father's passed away. So he rewinds back in time to the last time he saw his dad. And in that moment, like, his father was trying to reach out to him and talk to him, and he was working. It's like, I'm too busy, Dad, go away. And he stops and he's like crying. He's like, I'm so sorry, Dad, I love you. And I always bawl. I bawl my eyes out. And in that moment, I'm always like calling everyone I love you, I love you. So I very much always keep in mind, you know, how precious today is, but also in regards to my habits and my behaviors. They say like your habits sort of like determine your character, and your character determines your destiny. I think there's some sort of saying along those lines. So I'm always keeping in mind of like, where do I want to be in 5 years? And so what would I have to do to be that person now? But this was very based in pop culture. So they use Mr. Beast a lot as an example, and all these other celebrities. And I just didn't really enjoy the way it was written. It was very bro-y as well. It was, a lot of it was like sort of redundant and just circular writing. So this wasn't exactly great. I think I rated it maybe, 3 stars again. Then I read Bryony and Roses, which is by T. Kingfisher, and it's basically a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I gave it 3 stars. I've read a lot of Beauty and the Beast retellings. Some are fantastic, some are awful, and this was middle of the road. It had enough change in it that it was interesting and not boring and rehashing the same old stuff, but it wasn't like groundbreaking or enthralling. The Beast in this was quite odd. He was a little soft, passive. The main character, Bryony, she was great, but it's just, their dialogue just felt very stilted and inorganic, very like polite. And yeah, it was just lacking a bit of substance. I didn't really feel their relationship either. It's not like I was feeling a connection between them. I wanted to know more about the Rose character in this. So, and like, give me a backstory, give me some more information about them, and it didn't really do that. And then it just sort of like ended and wrapped up. So it's still T. Kingfisher, so I still like their writing and I still read it, and it was, you know, enjoyable, but it wasn't fantastic. Then I read Blood Oath, The Darkest Tree #1 by Ray Wagner and Kelly St. Clair. I gave this 3.5 stars. Everything I know is a lie. I'm an ordinary mortal girl, and Lord Eric is a depraved dragon shifter. King Erdelron is an immortal tyrant. This one was, yeah, I did read it all. It was entertaining. There was a lot of things problematic about it. So the main character is Rin, and she was fine. The rest of it was just a bit of a mess. I can't really talk about it without giving away the twists, although you just see it coming. There's multiple characters, and you sort of already, from the get-go, you're like, this seems a bit sus. Like, she's immediately thrown into prison. She's 17. I hate that. I hate teenage stuff, but this is like teenage stuff, but they're making it seem very adult. So she's thrown into prison and she's just tortured. So it's got a lot of torture in it. It's very dark. And then she sort of forms these alliances, and you sort of like, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? What's going on? I did not like the love interest. It was just a bit all over the place and wasn't for me. I gave it 3.5 because, like I said, I did enjoy the writing and I read it through in one sitting. But then again too, I have to say, like, this whole time I've been sick. A lot of these days I had a fever. I can't back up these scores 100%. I'm not sure if I would feel the same way if I read them in a lucid, proper state. But yeah, it was okay. Then I read Bow Before the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. I gave this 4 stars. In hiding all her life, Leala prepares for the day the wicked High Elf King Thane will come to steal her, his powerful mate. She trains to take her revenge for the wrongful execution of her parents who died for her freedom. Now that day has come, forcing her to come face to face with what she's hidden from, a dangerous dark-haired warrior king determined to marry her. So this is one of those things where it's like, everything isn't as it seems. Her parents, she's born with magic in this world where people who have magic are very rare, and the king's like, I'm going to bind you to my son, and the parent take you away from your parents. The parents like, no, you can't take her from us. They try to run away with her. They supposedly they're dead. I'm not 100% sure on that one. They pass her off to a human friend of theirs who takes her to the human lands and hides her away. And then 24 something years later, so thank goodness she's older. I'm so happy she's not a teenager. The prince comes a-looking and finds her and then makes her go back with him. I liked their relationship. I felt like in the beginning she really was just very vengeful and not sort of open to seeing what was going on around her and being strategic. She just sort of wanted to go back, and she wasn't being the smartest, I'm just going to say. But then it's like, turns out things aren't always as they seem. Maybe the prince is not the bad guy. Maybe someone else is the bad guy, and they need to work together if they're going to save the kingdom. It's one of those typical sort of books, magic books. And I did enjoy it. I found it really enjoyable, and I'm interested to see how it goes. It has potential, but it also could end up being not so great. And I read Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. I gave this 3.75 stars. Finlay Donovan is killing it, except she's not. She's a stressed out single mum of 2, struggling novelist, and her life is in chaos. And then she gets sort of caught up in a assassin sort of thing where someone thinks that she is a for-hire killer and wants to hire her to kill their husband, and all these shenanigans come into play. So this was very comical, even though it does include murder and intrigue and plots and conspiracies, but it has a very farcical element to it. I gave it 3.75 because it was entertaining. It's just not my kind of thing. Like, it was a bit too ridiculous. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, they're just so nonchalantly being caught up in murders and things, which are very full on. I did not like one of the male love interests at all, couldn't stand them. They were very inept at their job, doing stupid things. And I was like, I don't think I can continue on. I'm not going to continue with the series, but yeah, look, I can see why a lot of people really love it. Next, I read Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. I gave this 3 stars. So it's sort of about a girl who comes from poverty and a sort of an abusive childhood. She has a drug addict for a mother. The mother ODs and she decides to contact her sort of estranged biological dad, so she can stay with him in the interim between her finishing school and starting college. And in the beginning, she's very bitter. She's very angry. It sort of seems a little unjustified. Straight away, I was thinking with her dad, he doesn't just sort of deserve her ire to that extent. I have a feeling he was obviously kept in the dark and told things by her mother. She never really tried to communicate with him. She's sort of angry at him for not being there, but she's not like she really asked him like, hey, I need you to be a bigger part of my life. I want to spend more time with you. So that I found very frustrating in terms of her character. So she goes to stay at his beach house. He's married a very wealthy woman. He has a stepdaughter and she goes to stay at the beach house. She straight away too is sort of very antagonistic towards, his stepdaughter, and that very unnecessarily unwarranted. The stepdaughter is a lovely person and immediately tries to connect with her. She meets a dark and mysterious guy and falls in love, and it sort of goes from there. Look, it was easy to read. I didn't really enjoy the main character. I didn't like her that much. The love interest, straight away, I was like, alarm bells, red flags. I'm like, him? Like, this is where we're going with this. And then sort of their twist, if you want to call it that, which you could see a mile off, like, it was very apparent, came. And then she just makes some really dumb choices. And I just feel like the choices that she made were just a little foolish, a little young and naive, and a waste. So because I wasn't in it for the romance at all, the book didn't really have anything. It really is all about the romance. And if you don't like the romance, the book's pointless. I hate the word heartbones as well. Like the whole thing about them developing heartbones, I just thought was really cringy and I was not into it. This author is one that I picked up because they're everywhere, Colleen Hoover, and this was the first book of hers that became available as an audiobook. And I don't know if I will read another. I might read one more just to see, just to give it another go. Because like I said, I get to give it 3 stars. It wasn't awful. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I'll try once more. Unless I hate a book, I will give the author a second chance. Hello, my beautiful cat. Oh, I love you so much. So we'll see how we go. Then I read Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is another author that I just keep seeing everywhere. So I thought I'd give it a go. It is sort of like a psychological thriller about a man and his wife and going to sort of this cabin in the middle of nowhere during a blizzard and sort of finding out each other's secrets. Straight away, so I've given this 3.5 stars. It was entertaining. I did read it from start to finish. I did just mostly read it just to find out what the twist was. In terms of the characters, I didn't like Amelia. I didn't like the dude. I've already forgotten his name. Then there was a crazy lady in a cabin. I was like, she just seems like a kook. So I wasn't really invested in any of the characters. And from the beginning, I felt like it was very heavily manipulated. I could tell I was being manipulated in terms of how it was being written, that things aren't what they seem. So I was suspicious from the get-go. And because of that, I took everything like with a grain of salt. In regards to how it ended, there's just some things that felt really bizarre and foolish. Like what they do at the end in regards to what the private detective finds, I just thought, why would you be so stupid? Why would you not cover your tracks? Why would you leave it out in the open? That just made no sense to me. It's like, do you think like you just, no one's going to come looking, no one's going to investigate anything? I just thought that was really dumb. So because of that, if it had a better ending, it was a bit more clever, I probably would have given it more. That being said, I will definitely give Alice Feeney another go. There was enough in this that I thought maybe this just wasn't the right story for me, and I'll read another one of her stories. So yeah, we'll see how we go with that. Okay, so the books that I'm currently reading are The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This is about a ghostwriter who can see real ghosts, and then a new love interest winds up dead on her doorstep. She can see his ghost, and it's sort of like figuring it all out. It's a romance book. I'm really enjoying it. I love the main character, especially because it's someone who's in sort of the literary world. They love books, and straight away I'm like, yes. They wrote fan fiction as a teenager, which I also did. Theirs was X-Files and Lestat. I think I wrote X-Files and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So look, I like the nerd angle, I'm not going to lie. And their family own a funeral home. I was always partially interested in becoming a mortician. So the themes are up my alley. I enjoy the writing. It's very easy to read. Like I literally just started it last night while the kids are watching a movie, and I've almost finished it. So I think this will be at least a 4-star, but we'll see how it goes. And then we've got Sacred Nature, How We Can Recover Our Bond with the Natural World by Karen Armstrong. So that is the nonfiction book I plan to read after this one. And in terms of what I'm listening to Babel or Babel by R.F. Kuang. Once again, this is very, very popular. I'm halfway through. It is a long book. So on audio, I think it's like 16 hours or more, and I'm halfway through. So my thoughts so far, I think it definitely could have been condensed, like massively condensed. It's all about sort of mostly languages and the study of languages. So I think that's like linguistics and etymology and stuff like that. So if you're interested in about, the study of languages, you're going to froth at this book. It's very heavy on the academic, and I'm less interested in the academic, although I find languages fascinating. Not that much. I'm more interested in sort of the background thing that's going on in terms of the university and the other things I'm not going to talk about right now. I'm more interested in that. In terms of characters, they are fleshed out. You spend a lot of time with them, but besides Robin and maybe Victoire, I'm not really like connecting with them. There's like this coldness there. I have a tough time describing what exactly I mean, but I'm not really connecting with the characters that much. It is well written, I will say that. It's very well written. It's obviously very well researched. Like I said, it's very academic. I'm not like fact checking all of this stuff, especially in terms of linguistics, but I assume that the author did their research and they bang on about that. And I just think, wow, tried a fiction book and to go to that level of research, kudos. But yeah, look, I am enjoying it. It's just going to take a while to get through. So I think that's everything that I have read in the 12 days that I've been sick. Apologies once again for the weakness of voice, and I'm having a hard time reviewing them because they've just gone in and out, in and out, in and out. But I'm looking forward to, now that I'm a little bit more lucid, diving a bit deeper into the books I read, hopefully reading a bit less, because yeah, when I've got so many books to review every week, it can be a bit overwhelming for me, and I struggle to formulate coherent thoughts and reflections. But I'm excited what I'm currently reading, and yeah, my TBR at the moment is looking stellar, so I'm looking forward to having a lot more favorites. I hope that wherever you are, you're having an extraordinary morning, afternoon, or evening, and as always, stay wild, star child.